of thinking about what you had to give up, a lot of times the first thing that kind of jumps into someone's mind could be a thing or a lifestyle, my social life. And I think for me, because I got pregnant young, and I fell into the stereotypical definition of a single young mom. For me, what I had to let go of was that tag of typical single mom, and letting go of that stereotype, not from just other people in society, but for me. And so I made a conscious decision early on that I will not be that. And as a result, the choices I would make to who I am now, basically determined that. Never ever did I want my daughter to grow up having that same residue of my you call it a mistake, to be put upon her. And for her to feel that I'm less than or a second-class citizen because I come from this home or because my mother is this. She's grown up a child full of love because I said that's what she's going to experience, no matter what my circumstances were when she came in. And by me making that decision really has made her the person she is and has healed me. I can say now, I can look back at that moment and feel nothing in terms of guilt or condemnation. I truly have grown out of that person, and I can now give from a place of healing and wholeness. And I think that's extremely important for any single mom, is ensure that that moment does not define your journey or you. Come out of it and grow. You can reinvent yourself into anyone and anything.
So about 2 years ago, my son had a rash on his face, and his doctor said, we need to get a stool sample. And I remember him saying that the sample will only be valid if you take it to a lab within an hour of my child pooping. So the whole of that week wasn't possible because of work, etc. And then there was a public holiday on that week. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is a perfect opportunity. So my nanny says, Mama, Jonathan ame poo-poo. Like, Jonathan has poop. It's so funny how conversations now about poop become very normal. So I take his poop, put it in the diaper, put it in a bag, and head to a lab. So I go to one lab, they are closed. It was a public holiday, so they were closed. So I'm like, okay, I have only about 50 minutes to go to look for another lab. So I finally get a lab at Gertrude's Hospital. And I remember standing very vividly at the counter with a bag of poop. I was in sweats, stroke pajamas, no bra, and poop is smelling. Like, everybody knows that I'm carrying poop in that bag. That day, it hit me for, you're a mom. And I remember there was a lady who was there as well. It was a children's hospital, so I'm assuming she has a sick child. And I remember she looked like she hadn't slept for a while. And she also didn't have a bra. And we just looked at each other for a moment, and it's like we had some camaraderie. I didn't know her, she didn't know me, but for that moment, we were mothers. That was the day that it hit me that I am a mom.
I used to be this woman who was like, why do pregnant women drink? Why can't you give it up for just 9 months? You're bringing a life into the world. Why won't you breastfeed? And then I started breastfeeding, and it was the most painful thing that first month. Eventually I got the hang of it. But to this day, I don't even know why I kept doing it. Like, I should have just given up at some point. It was excruciating. I remember telling my mom, and she was like, oh, you thought the things your boyfriends did with your nipples. My mother is so hilarious. What's talking about? And here comes this baby. And she was really cracking up, like trying to make the moment light so that I would continue with breastfeeding. And I'm glad I did. But I don't judge women. It's so difficult. It's so demanding, especially if you're breastfeeding on demand, because then the child really is mheshimiwa. You're forever, or you're hungry, or you're upset, or this and this. Like, you're like a vending machine. Nobody cares about your wants and your hopes and your dreams at that point. So it's that I let go of. I let go of judging other women, how they mother, what they prioritize. Like, this journey is so different from, and I think it's also different. I only have one child, but I think it's also different from child to child. So I let go of that self-righteous judgment, blah, blah thing, yes.
So I'm my mom's firstborn and only daughter, and we're just 2 kids. So our family is very close-knit, not just the nuclear setup, but also the extended setup. But the relationship that I have with my mom, I can only describe it as, it's beyond friendship. We're one of those mother-daughter friendships where we get ready together, we go for events together, we interact beyond the parental-child conversations. She's very much in my life, even with, now that I'm a new mother and now that I have moved out and I'm living with my partner, Mom is still very much present, but not as a mother, not as an in-law, but as my friend.
I have an older son and I have a younger daughter, and my son is an old soul, and he says these things that kind of make you think, okay, teenager, sort of, going on 70. And my daughter, on the other hand, is just happiness personified. I can't tell you. She's within, as soon as she could walk, she would go up to strangers in restaurants, and I'd actually have to be very careful. And she'd go up to people and greet them or hug them or ask them why they're sad, which can be very awkward. And so the one is just the heart, like she's got heart from like just about there until just above her ankles. And the other one is very circumspect and very thoughtful and very wise and very still. And just having those two, like the energy of the world and the wisdom of the world in these 2 little people that actually are related to me, which is quite shocking. I think is what I love about both of them. So between the 2 of them, I kind of think, okay, I'm just going to stand between you and kind of be the adult from time to time and herd you along your lives. Yeah, I love motherhood. I really do.
So what happened is I went into labor at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then after 23 hours, it stalled. And I'd been induced. They were like, your labor is not progressing quickly enough and all of this. And yeah, so they were trying to induce me. They were inducing me. And then I asked for an epidural because I was just in so much pain. Like I felt I was literally losing my mind. And then I ended up needing an emergency CS. So my son's father, my mom, everyone's like, why don't you just go for a CS? Like, why are you suffering through this? But I wanted to be that African woman who pushed out her baby and whatever, all this stuff. And then it was actually a point of grief for me, like days later when my son, like, even when my son came out and everything, I was like, yes, I'm happy I have a healthy baby and everything, but I also felt like my body let me down. I was like, how could you not? Like, African women are giving birth in the bush. How am I the one in need of like an emergency CS? And then my baby came out in distress, so he went into HDU for the first almost like 2 days. And then my body was in distress. I lost so much blood. They had to transfuse me. There was no breast milk. And then it became this hilarious conversation where even my dad is like, is the milk here? I'm like, yo, Dad, imagine of all people, you can't be asking me about my boobs. And then my son's father's grandmother came to see the baby. And then now we're in the ward when whatever the baby was, and she's like teaching me how to breastfeed. Like, if that child just latches on, the milk will come. It was so, and then you realize just how much this child means to everybody. Like, 1 minute my body was mine. I was having lunch in Art Cafe on a Monday. Wednesday, everyone has the milk come. But what's going on? Like, can everyone just go away? So that was that was jolting.
So, so I told you about my mother passing, and on Thursday, just before Easter, so my mother had like really big Somali hair, very smooth, very flowing, very beautiful, very striking woman. And the one thing that she hadn't wanted to lose in throughout this journey of cancer was her hair, and she was really clear about that. She had lost her hair, and on Thursday mornings by her bed, and we were chatting away, and she reached out and she sort of touched my hair, which was a lot longer at the time, and she sort of caressed it, and she said so longingly, like, I must be so ugly. And she pulled back her headscarf, and she didn't have any hair, she just had a few tufts, and she'd lost most of it. She said, I really miss my hair, I must be so ugly. So I said to her, just give me a few minutes. I got in my car and I went to see my barber, and I said, shave it off. And at first, actually, he didn't believe me, so I took the clippers and I just went like that. So now he had to do the rest of it. So he shaved it absolutely clean. And I went back home. It took about an hour at most. And I went back home, and she was sort of half asleep. And so I took her hand and I put it on my head and I rubbed it. And I said to her, I dare you to call me ugly, Mom. I dare you. Call me ugly. And she started laughing, and she called my daughter in, and she said, your mother is crazy. Your mother is crazy. Your mother is crazy. And my daughter, Ken, kept saying, Shushu, she's your daughter. She's your daughter. And it just brought the biggest laugh. And that was Thursday, just before Easter. And of course, we lost her on Easter Sunday. So it's been 26 days. And 3 days ago was my birthday. And how this works is she calls, usually and sounds very rushed, as though it has come as a surprise. And she sings horrendously off key, like you'd have thought, she's had so many years to practice this. You'd have thought she finally figured out how to sing Happy Birthday. And then she asks me completely, like without guile, she asks, how old are you now? And I'm like, you kind of gave birth to me. Shouldn't you know the answer to that? And then she will start on this litany of all of the things that have been happening in her life. Although we would have spoken like a few days before, but she'll tell me, like she'll give me a year's worth of her life summary, and then a little anecdote of when I was born, or when I was 3, or and I've heard it before. And so I'll be rolling my eyes. And the next day in the morning, she'll come home probably before 6 o'clock in the morning, because she wants to catch me before I leave for work. And she will have ton loads of vegetables. And it's such, and she did this every year that, I've been living here, and when I didn't live here, the call would come through with the happy birthday and the how old are you now, and then the surprise, oh my goodness, you mean, so it's little things like those. I'm grateful that I've had a really complete relationship with my mother, and managed to see her, and she allowed me to see her for the woman that she was, rather than just for the role of mother. So she never tried to be, or to tell stories to be a woman that she wasn't. But yeah, I miss the call.
If my mom was a song, my mom would be Whitney Houston. I will always love you.
Oof. She would be, and funny, we like to sing this song together. It's an older song of Mary Mary called Can't Give Up Now.
Oh, she's very clear on the song she is. She picked it a long time ago. She's a redemption song. She's Bob Marley's redemption song.
I think she'd be like a Biggie song with a gospel artist, like some kind of remix, maybe with Tasha Cobbs or something, or some Kikuyu gospel in there, because she likes her Kikuyu music. So yeah, that would be my mom in a song, yes.
Oh, she's here. I think that Tyrus Riley was thinking of my mother when he wrote the song She Is Royal.
Hey, I'm Valentine Droge, and happy Mother's Day. I would like to encourage all of us women to celebrate each other, whether or not you've given birth or not. Yes, there's a special bond of having brought a human into this world and pushed them out and all of that. But there's also so much more love and care and guidance and wisdom that goes into raising a human that we women really participate in, whether or not we came to motherhood through giving birth.
You know, just a huge gratitude and appreciation to all mothers, because listen, they've given birth to past societies, to current societies, and they're going to give birth to the future. So just embrace that role. There's no manual to being a mother. I'm learning that now. I thought there was. There's no manual, and you're perfect. Your child will always see you as perfect. So don't ever feel that you need to compensate for anything that you're lacking, or compensate for just being a mother. So yeah, just thank you to all mothers and happy Mother's Day.
Wow, my message to moms this Mother's Day, I mean, you can say so much, but I feel if you've ever doubted or you've ever felt that this is such a thankless job, which yes, it is. It is the most fulfilling because it's a great privilege, you know. We are life givers and we are also nurturers. And those are two things that I feel, honestly, if we were not here, this world would not turn. This world could not go on without the role of mothers. So you being in that position is a huge privilege and responsibility. And because of that, you know, don't be so hard on yourself. You're not going to get it right. It is a trial and error. And if you came into this club feeling like you're an imposter because circumstances weren't perfect, they weren't right, own this time, own the role, because the person who is looking at you and relying on you to be the best is that child. Regardless of what society has said about you, will say about you, you may have disappointed family, friends, and yourself. But now the decision is upon you to make it right by being the best mother to that child now, here on out. And that's what I did in my journey. And I can't thank God and myself enough for making that decision early on. To step out of that moment of disappointment and regret and a mistake and chart a completely new path and journey for myself, to say that this is the woman I'm going to be, not just mother, but woman. And I love who I've become as a result of it. So don't beat yourself up. Thank God for the journey, continue on, and try to be the best person you can through it all. Happy Mother's Day.
They say mothers are only the women who have passed a child through their body, and that for you to really be a mother, you must have birthed somebody. But we're mothers in so many ways, not just the ones who have adopted children or who are raising children who are not theirs, but those who are nurturing and growing souls. So you baby watching, and you, like me, had children that never made it. And maybe you didn't get the privilege to have one who did make it. And you're asking yourselves, does that make me a mother or not? It does. There's no difference. You just had more time and others had less time with their kids. Love. Happy Mother's Day.
I think Mother's Day is an amazing day because it celebrates people who are resilient, who are constant, who are always there for you. But I think it can also be a very sad and somber and lonely day for those who don't have moms, who wish to be moms and for some reason or the other can't be. So as we celebrate Mother's Day this year, whatever your situation is, I pray that you'll find some comfort somewhere, some joy somewhere, and I hope it'll still be an amazing Mother's Day for you. My name is Joanne Korea and I'm the founder of XX Agenda, and I'd love to wish every single mother out there happy Mother's Day.